Record. Hi, Taylor. Great to see you today. What brings you to counseling?
Hi. Well, I think it's been kind of an anxious couple of weeks for me. Um, there's been a lot going on, both personally and in the world at large.
Yeah,
And at times it feels overwhelming. Um, so
overwhelming.
I, yeah. So, I'm just starting a new job, which I'm really enjoying, but getting started with a new job when you are also juggling school, and I have two kids and a husband, and just making sure that nothing falls through the cracks has been a lot. Um, so it's happy but also stressful. Um, Another element of like what I'm going through right now is and I realize that it can be a divisive topic, but I was I personally wasn't happy with the results of the election. They didn't go in the way that I would have liked. I didn't I wasn't particularly in love with either candidate, but the candidate that won, in my opinion, as a woman, I have a really hard time with.
Yeah.
And it brought up in me some feelings of, I guess I could say, helplessness,
Mhm.
um, and feeling like I really wasn't on even footing with, or I wasn't in agreements on a lot of things with the people living around me, or just people in my community. And I try not to fall into extreme thinking, but I found it really difficult. And I'm also having this kind of come up in my personal life because me going back to work, I've been home with my kids since COVID.
Okay.
So I am going from a position where I was home and being primarily a mom and taking care of the house and the family to having a full-time career, which my husband is supportive of, but I think that he is having to adjust to the new normal in that I think I kind of realized that maybe he had not fully appreciated all of the things that I did for this family when I wasn't working. And as a man, I acknowledge that maybe he doesn't fully understand the pressures of being a working mom, or a mom that feels, or just a woman that feels like you have to do everything just to get by.
Yeah,
Um,
there's much to do in your world.
yeah. Yeah. And I think while he is supportive, um, and while we see eye to eye on a lot of things, as a man, I think that he just has a hard time understanding some of the complex realities of just being a woman. And that has really been a big theme of frustration, particularly since the election, because I've been feeling particularly, I think, sensitive about the topic while he is adjusting to me being at work. And so he will sometimes like complain about, oh, I'm so tired. I had to pick up the kids, or I had to, whatever, do the laundry, do XYZ. And it was frustrating for me because I'm like, I I do all of that. You know what I mean? Like I'm expected as a woman to do it all. And for him, I think I'm almost jealous of his ability to just complain. But sometimes I take it a little personally, like, oh, I'm so tired. And it's like, I feel like, oh, should I be doing more? Like, no, I shouldn't be doing more. I don't know. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's just something I've been wrestling with a lot.
Yeah. The election having pitted a man against a woman, and then we saw on a massive stage the gender roles playing ultimately a role in the decision. You feel the weight of all of that,
Hmm.
and in reflection of your own life, taking on all of the additional things that you have, you're seeing a similar perceived injustice within your marriage, and that leaves you feeling sensitive.
Yeah, I think that that's completely right. And I'm trying not to be bitter. Um, my husband is a good man. I think that he, though, is a man. And I think that there are just some things that are very different in his world than are in mine. And while he wants to understand, it almost feels like we're living in two different realities sometimes. Um, and the election was disheartening, not just because it was the male that won, but just some of the things that have been said and done, it it felt that it was, in my opinion, I felt disappointed that more men didn't stand up against some of the rhetoric that was happening and is still happening right now.
Yeah. And that rhetoric over a larger across the population, you would have liked to have seen more men, including your husband, perhaps stand up against against the rhetoric, but for women.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. And I think it's a time when um they can vote for make changes that might be in our favor, but I also want the men in my life to be able to stand up and when they see injustice, um, like actively fight against it. And it's hard, it's a hard thing to explain to somebody who is in a position of more privilege. And I have a great empathy because I'm sure this is how it feels for like people of color when in regards to like when they're with their friends that are a majority race,
Mhm.
that it's hard to explain to somebody who's never experienced it, sometimes the fear and the pressure of being a woman. And he wants to understand. And I think but I don't think he fully grasps that, like, even just little things like when he doesn't go the extra mile to try to help out around the house, or like when he'll complain about things that have just been done for him because I've been doing them, that it's hurtful. I
Yeah.
don't think he understands that it's hurtful.
Yeah. Yeah. You feel disheartened when he'll make comments about how hard the things that you got used to doing were, and you were so good at it, he never noticed.
Yeah. Yeah, and now I'm in this particular area of pressure where I'm trying to still do all the things I was doing before I went to work, but now I'm also working. Um, so And I do think it kind of ties all together because I think a big part of that is gender roles as well, because inherent in me, um, because of the way that a woman's role maybe has been modeled to me, or the way that society has influenced me to believe what a woman's role is. Um, I feel like I am living with additional pressure of I've gone back to work, but I feel like I should still be doing all of the mom things and the wife things too. And there's just realistically not enough hours in the day to do all of it.
Yeah. You notice that the gender roles that you were previously filling, a wife and a mother, have now become far too much
Yeah,
to all for one person.
yeah. And I have actually really enjoyed so far working outside of the house because while I love my children, and I love being a wife and I love being a mom, it gives me this sense of purpose outside of my house and out in the real world that I feel like I didn't even realize how much I was missing it, in the last 4 years since COVID that I've been home. And I'm already feeling like a lift in my spirit, but it can, like that guilt of not spending as much time with my kids, or like um before I went back to work I was really active in the PTA and at my kids' school, and now I just don't have enough time to do all of it. And um it's just a lot of pressure that I put on myself,
Yeah.
and I acknowledge it, um but it's still kind of there, you know.
Yeah. You're so skilled at being a mom, and you filled that role really wonderfully and enjoyed it for the time that you did.
Hmm.
But now making a transition you're also excited about causes you to feel this angst and in an inability to do both.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And there is that angst also just with my feelings around gender role because it I just don't see a lot of working dads
Mm.
feeling this same. um I mean, I'm sure some do, but you don't hear about working dads feeling the same pressure as maybe working moms do to like prove that they're an amazing over the top mom while also working. I feel like with my husband, and he is a very good dad. I absolutely would never take that from him, but there's something to be said that he kind of will help me out with the bare minimum. And the response I get primarily from other women is like, "Wow, you're so lucky. He's such a good dad." And I'm like, "Yeah, but he's just being a dad."
Yeah.
Um, so there's just um, I feel like we're being measured in very different ways.
Yeah. Tell me more about your expectations around gender roles for you specifically.
Um, I think I have been in a caretaker role for a lot of my life.
Yeah.
I was a caretaker for my younger siblings growing up, and I am quite maternal. And particularly when I stopped working and when I had my kids, I really threw myself all in on that. And I wanted to, I wanted to give my kids the household that I didn't have growing up. And so inadvertently, I think I put a lot of pressure on myself to be super involved in their school and to, keep the house clean and make sure they always had good snacks in the pantry and make sure they always had clean clothes to wear. And like that mom was always there and available to them. But in doing that, um I put a lot of pressure on myself to be kind of like that perfect mom. And now that I'm working again and realizing that I can't be the best employee I can be and also maintain the amount of pressure I was putting on myself as a woman and as a mom, that like something has to fall, and the acknowledgement of I don't have to be perfect to give my kids a good life.
Yeah. You
And
feel solely responsible for that good life, and it morphed into something that had to be perfect.
yeah, 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 absolutely. I feel like I feel a pressure about that I have some more baggage around that than my husband does. And so there's an inherent pressure to that I don't think he fully understands. Um, and I'm trying to find a nice, healthy medium for me because I want to do, not that being a mom isn't a really big thing, it is, but I also want to do bigger things with my life. I want to make change outside of my home, and I want to have a wonderful career. Um, and in doing that, I need to also be okay with the fact that I can't stretch myself so thin and have such high expectations for myself in every area of my life.
Yeah, your main goal is balance between the variety of things that you've listed as opportunities that you've taken on.
Yeah, yeah. It's yeah, absolutely. And I think with my husband, it's just a weird time right now. Um, of just a lot of stuff going on. And I think I probably need to be a bit more like I think I need to have a more intentional conversation with him about the realities of how I'm being impacted right now about what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I mean, he's disappointed too, but it occurred to me that like I don't think he understands that for me, it's kind of a different thing than just the person I wanted to win didn't win. Like for me, it feels like a deeper hurt that as a man, I don't think he fully comprehends.
Yeah. He's not going to comprehend that or understand it on his own. And you think that a candid conversation with him might help him empathize with you.
I think so. I think so. I think that that's probably a good start because I don't think that he is being purposefully negligent. I think that he just doesn't understand.
Yeah,
Um,
because he's a good man and he
mhm.
wouldn't be purposely negligent.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. Um, so I feel safe to have a conversation with him about it. We haven't really found a good time where I feel like our moods are in the right place. I feel like our energies are in the right place because I mean, truth be told, just right now, and by right now, I mean like within the last couple weeks, we've been going and going and going so much between the kids' activities and my new schedule and all of the things that we haven't had a good moment to slow down and have a good, deep conversation about this kind of thing.
Yeah. You feel hesitant to know when the time is right to talk about it.
Yeah, because it's kind of heavy. Um, and so I feel like the only time we've had recently to have a long discussion about something like this is like before bed. And honestly, I've just been so wiped out and he's been tired too that I just haven't felt like I want to get into all of that yet, but I think it would probably be really helpful. And I think it would be helpful if I have a conversation about like my triggers around things not being done around the house, or maybe him complaining about having to do something because to him, he's probably just complaining. But to me, it feels like he's pointing the finger. This isn't what he's doing, but it feels like he's pointing the finger at me like, oh, I'm so tired. I got up with the dog last night or whatever. The way that I hear that sometimes is, I'm so tired. I wish you would have gotten up with the dog last. You know what I mean? Like, I think that I take things like that sometimes. And maybe I need to have a conversation with him a bit more candidly about just how those comments can trigger me. Um, because again, I don't think it's purposeful. I think these are just things I'm working out.
Yeah. And his word choice or tone when he shares his feelings with you could make a big difference
Hmm.
as far as how you receive it.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think, I mean, he and I have been together a long time, so he has some understanding of this, but I think it would be kind of good that we have a little bit of a reminder conversation around just some of the things that can trigger me to feel like I am being called out or like I'm less than. Um, when I know logically he's just complaining, but emotionally it affects me a bit more than that.
Yeah. I hear you feeling unappreciated.
Yeah, 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 I think I do.
What would it look like to be appreciated?
Um, hmm. I think that maybe just some more words of affirmation, maybe just hearing it a bit more would be helpful to me, that the things that I do don't go unnoticed, because sometimes it can feel like they do. Um, I think particularly when I haven't been working, my family really got used to things just being done, without a whole lot of thought to how all of these things got done. Um, and I think it would be really nice to hear that acknowledgement a bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when he was working and you were home, when he didn't see things happen, it was out of sight, out of mind. But
Hmm.
it needs to be in his viewpoint and in his words for you.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Um, and I think that could be another point that we could touch on that would probably be really helpful.
Yeah. Tell me more about that balance perhaps in the affirmations and the workload, if that's a goal.
So I think my two goals are the one external goal would be to just have a more candid conversation with my husband about my feelings and just how sometimes his comments can maybe inadvertently hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
Um, and then an internal goal, I think, is acceptance of myself, you know, uh, knowing that showing up as my best on any given day doesn't necessarily mean being perfect. And I don't have to do it all to be good. It doesn't have to be 100% to be good.
Yeah. You recognize that perfect mom and perfect wife and perfect employee don't exist together. And
Right.
the goal is acceptance of a integrated human.
Yeah. And giving as much as I am able to give on any given day and having that be okay
Yeah.
internally with myself.
Yeah, there could be a lot of celebration in that,
Hmm.
giving your best every day.
Yeah. Yeah. And that it's okay if that looks different sometimes.
Absolutely. That
Yeah.
will change day to day.
Yeah. So I would say right now, those are my two big goals for myself. Um, this is the challenge, but I also have a lot to celebrate right now. I'm really enjoying my new job. Even though it has been a bit challenging, I'm really liking it and I feel proud of the work that I'm doing. So in that regard, um, you know, I'm very proud of myself.
Absolutely. You set two goals, one external that could be relatively short term
Mhm.
and one internal. And I would love to work on the internal goal over a series of sessions, but I'd also love to hear more in our next opportunity about maybe the candid conversations with your husband that we discussed today about gender roles and your appreciation around the home. That will close our session. Taylor, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Scene.
Girl, you're good.
Oh, thank you.
You're really good. Um, I think you even picked up on some things that I hadn't fully processed myself yet. Um, yeah, wow. I'm trying to think of feedback, and I just thought that that went really, really well. I think your use of goals was awesome. Um, you had some questions, but it was minimal. I think it was a lot of reflection of feeling.
Yeah.
Um, and I felt very attuned to.
Oh, good.
And I felt that you were very present. And honestly, I think you kind of hit it out of the park. I really can't think of anything from a client perspective that felt awkward or didn't land. Yeah, you did a really good job.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate that. Things that I felt like maybe I could have done better, and I'd love your feedback on them. You talked kind of like big at the beginning and for about like 4.5 minutes. I don't know if that was good to not like interject something. So I was trying to use like minimal encouragers, and I've actually grown that skill in a big way because I don't use the yeahs and the of course in my regular life. How did you feel about the first, like you just were able to say, a lot?
I actually thought that that was good because I feel like I needed that first little bit to kind of catch you up to speed
Yeah.
on what my topic was. Um, so I found that really appropriate. I think that that was perfect. In fact, I think if you had interjected more too soon, it kind of would have made my train of thought a bit more like interrupted.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
you were rolling and I could see you thinking, so I was like, I don't need to direct her in any way.
from my end, I thought that that was good.
Okay. Second thing that I noticed, I s- I kind of like tried to identify a problem, but I think I just spouted a goal, which is fine. It's the same kind of thing. But like I said the goal would be balance, and then
Mhm.
it morphed. How did the balance land initially, with that being the first goal? After we kind of
Well,
talked more about it, it
mhm.
seemed like that might have been too low.
um, but again, I don't actually think that that was totally off base because balance is part of what I'm struggling with.
Hmm.
Um, and balance with myself, I think, is a big part of my internal goal because it's the embrace of balance of the good and the bad and integration and um, all of those things that I'm dealing with right now. So I actually think it's a applicable word for the goal that I ended up with. Um, and in a broader sense, I think that it still fit really well. So no, I don't think that that was off at all.
Superb. Well, thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you.
I'm going to stop recording.